Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Allen. Our guest is Sheila Unique in this segment. We're going to be talking to her. She's been on the show before. She's an old friend. We've known each other a number of years. Her new book has come out this week. It's called Relatefully, Gain Greater Relationships from the Inside Out. It's a book guiding you inside yourself. And we'll talk about that with Sheila. Sheila, welcome back to Late Night Health.
Hey, thank you, Mark. Nice to be back.
Tell us about your life and your relationships and why you are an expert in helping people gain better relationships.
Well, life manages to bring us our experiences, and along the way I've had a number that have kind of drawn me inside. When I say drawn me inside, I would be in a place, Mark, where I would, what am I thinking about? What's causing me to feel this way? How come my physical body's doing what it's doing? And it became a search to kind of be with, how is all of this tying together, and how does this relate to what's happening around me? So life experiences, I would have to say, Mark, have been the reason why even my book is showing up today.
I would think that most people, to have a good relationship, need to have a good relationship with themselves, which is part of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bet it is. Great point, Mark, because why would that be important? Is when it comes to anything that we're dealing with, we have this whole environment around us. We have the people that we work with every day. We have the things that show up, the situations we find ourselves in. And sometimes that doesn't reflect fun stuff. Like sometimes there's conflict and sometimes there's struggle. And the whole thing about what's happening outside of us is a reflection on what's on the inside, like you mentioned.
We've talked to people about something called the law of attraction. And one of the precepts of the law of attraction is that like gives you more like. So if you're depressed all the time, you manifest, if you will, more depressing thoughts, more depressing life. But if you tend to be happy, you attract more happiness. Would that be the same thing that works in relationships? Especially, I think the most important relationship a person has is with themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's a valid point. And the law of attraction does come into play. But how I approach that, Mark, is a little bit differently in that you bet when we go about our day-to-day life, there's going to be times where we're reacting, sometimes when we're celebrating. There's going to be times where people show up and instantly we just seem to be annoyed about something and we have no idea what that is. So when I talk about being relateful as far as relating to ourselves more, it takes me back to the picture of a mirror. When we have a mirror in front of us, the mirror is reflecting back all kinds of information, Mark. And it's not so much the information that, oh, I look good today, or, ooh, that's a nice outfit. It's the kind of information that's reflecting back how are we feeling right now in relation to what we're seeing around us. So law of attraction does come into play. But the beautiful thing, if I could say, is that it's always helping us grow in awareness.
People have all kinds of relationships. You have a relationship with yourself, with a spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend. You have business relationships. Sometimes people come into your life to help you. Sometimes people come into your life so you can help them. And of course, then there's the mutual, you help each other. How do you improve that? How do you get that mutual kind of a relationship where, you can say, hey, can you come over and help me move? Can you take me to the airport? I mean, I know that's simplified. I get it. But I think that's a good starting point.
You bet it is. And the fact that you can ask that is what the awareness is that I talk about. When there's conflict of some kind and you ask somebody and they, snub you back, that's just an indication that, okay, something's going on right now, something's being reflected, or I'm observing something, or the conflict or the struggle that goes on. It's not so much anymore about what other people are doing as much as what we are learning about ourselves in relation to what they're doing. In other words, Mark, this has to do with, okay, if they're snubbing me and I can be okay with that, then I don't have any issue or any problem with it. I just can accept that, this person today is snubbing me. Now, if this person snubs me and I go, ugh, yuck, and now I'm upset for the rest of the day because they rejected me, or then that's a sign that there's some kind, I call it unrest inside. There's something inside that's causing me to act that way. And that's what it works like in relationships, regardless if it's a spouse, as you talked about, a colleague, as far as the different people that you run into in your life. It's all about what are they doing that's causing you either to, react or struggle, and again, it's not about them as much as it is about growing in awareness about what we're learning about ourselves.
In high school, teenagers, right now, suicide is way up. Part of it is because of COVID. I think that people are designed to be in a group. But sometimes, and starting in high school, there are little cliques. They're the mean girls, the mean boys. How do you tame that kind of a relationship when people are, as you said, snubbing you, for example, or being mean to you? You still have to have a relationship. You may not want it, but you're in school or later on in the workforce. There's one or two, maybe a manager, maybe somebody else in the office or workplace that you just, for some reason, don't get along with. How do you improve that kind of a relationship, or can you?
Well, that's a beautiful point, and you bet people are dealing with that nowadays. It's not something that can be ignored. When it comes to those kinds of relationships, it's definitely about being aware of what we're doing inside, again, in relation to what's happening outside. So when I say that, as far as a child, how will we know that they're in a place where maybe they're potentially going to commit suicide? That's all about awareness. It's all about observing. But we don't always know that. But as somebody who's relating to other people, when we recognize that there's bullying going on, when we recognize that the different relationships around us are reflecting something that doesn't feel great, first of all, being aware of what's going on inside of us, and then doing what we can to move forward to bring about change. So it's quite, I would have to say, more of a general comment, Mark, to what you're saying, but it's not always an everything and an all as far as how would you deal with that.
Sheila, we're going to talk about going inside when we come back. When we come back in just a couple of moments, our guest is Sheila Unique, and we're going to talk about her book, relatefully in depth some more as Late Night Health continues. Late Night Health is proud of our partnership with the EBC, the Evolutionary Business Council. Check them out at ebcouncil.com.
You're listening to Late Night Health with Mark Allen. The show continues in a moment.
Recently, I met Jacqueline from Bright here in Los Angeles. She gave me a hearing exam and then showed me how to hear again with the new Signia Pure Series hearing aids, and she can give you your life back too. I hear birds chirping, birds cooing, and even my wife. They easily connect to my smartphone. The Signia hearing aids are amazing, and with the charge and go, I don't have to fiddle with batteries and hear all day long. Not hearing is frustrating for you and your family. I know you don't have a problem, but trust me, call Bright Here now for a free hearing exam, a $125 value, yours free, just for making an appointment now. There are offices throughout the Los Angeles area. Call Bright Here now at 323-424-7100. That's 323-424-7100 for a free hearing exam. There's no obligation. Call now, 323-424-7100, or visit them on the web at brighthere.com.
The latest from the greatest, the best in new music by classic rockers, with your host, the insane Daryl Wayne.
This is Alice Cooper, and if Daryl Wayne is insane, what does that make me? Criminally insane. Stick around to find out.
Many of the artist interviews for the latest from the greatest have been captured on audio book. There is a Volume 1 and Volume 2. Great information and conversations with people in the industry and people surrounded by the industry, and of course the rock stars themselves.
I'm the Reverend Al Green, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne. And I said Wayne Insane.
You can find it on Amazon or Blackstone Audio. Search for the latest from the greatest from Daryl Wayne, DARRELL
Hello, this is Weird Al Yankovic, and you're listening to the insane Daryl Wayne, aren't you?
Welcome to Guide to the Soul. This is Robert Clancy. Sometimes the challenges of life can cause so much pain for some that life itself becomes too much to bear. If this ever happens to you, know that there's always a silver lining awaiting you. It's the love from family and friends that is always covering you. You are never alone. There is a plan for you, and there's always a silver lining balancing every seemingly negative experience. You just need to recognize and acknowledge it. Dare to live life to the fullest and embrace the challenges placed before you. There's a light at the end of every dark tunnel.
For more inspiration from Robert Clancy, visit guidetothesoul.com or go to the Moments with Robert page on latenightshealth.com. Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Allen. Our guest is Sheila Unique. We've been talking about her book. It's been released this week. The name of the book is Relatefully, and it's a book that will be a guidepost to getting greater and better relationships. In your book, Sheila, do you talk about, hey, if you're in a bad relationship, you got to get out of it?
Well, that's an interesting point. If you're in a bad relationship, I approach it in the book as far as what's going on for you and how can you heal and resolve your part in the relationship. So to me, there's three energy fields, I'll call them, because I do reference the energy body, where we have the person, your spouse, for example, would have their own energetic field. We have me, myself, for example, that I would have my own energetic field, but between the two of us, there's an energetic field that exists between us, and how we interact together, and how we approach our days, and how are we when we're together, how are we when we're apart. And it's all about recognizing that, because that, to me, is a strength. The more you become aware of that, the more the relationship heals. And I mean that when I resolve stuff that bothers me about my spouse, for example, that energy is changed within me, how I approach things, how I feel about it. That all impacts my part, which then impacts the relationship, the energy between the two of us. And it has nowhere to go but healing in some way, Mark.
But a spouse, a relationship with a spouse, one or the other of the spouse, maybe both, they know how to yank your chain. They know how to set you off. They know what it is that's going to make you go ballistic. And they do it. Sometimes intentionally, and sometimes not so intentionally. How do you resolve that conflict?
You know, that's a fact, Mark, that sometimes I'll do things that, like I'll say to my husband, you know, I did this today. Like somehow I should be this super great hero. And when I do stuff like that, I'm aware, all of a sudden I'm aware that, why am I doing that? And I approach everything that I have with my spouse. I approach it from going inside and going, what's really causing me to react that way? What's really causing me to close down where I all of a sudden just don't feel like talking to him? And that's where the resolution happens, Mark. When we heal and resolve inside, the next interaction I'll have with my husband will be very different. And that's kind of the approach that I present going through the whole book when it comes to relating more fully with ourselves. It also impacts when I heal and resolve in me. It impacts our relationship, which brings about healing and resolution in the relationship.
But if your spouse is doing something constantly that annoys you, but they like it, maybe it's eating Limburger cheese and it's stinky, and then they don't brush their teeth. Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It bothers you. How do you resolve something like that?
That's a great question. All I have to do is resolve my annoyance to whatever my spouse is doing. Now, that does not mean that I have to like or love or appreciate everything about him. Like, you bet as a human being, if it stinks and he's got garlic breath or he's got whatever breath, I'm going to say, oh my gosh. Now, if he gets upset, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes he's upset because of what I do, and sometimes I'm upset because of what he does. But I guarantee you, I have gone in and I've resolved, healed, and resolved annoyances. And then he'll come along and he'll have that breath, he'll be eating that whatever, and it no longer becomes about me. It's just, okay, there he is having that. This is absolutely fact. It is absolutely a guarantee. Mark, I want to just go a little further and just say, awareness is about being aware of when do we have a sudden change, like when do we go from happy to horrible all of a sudden. But awareness is also about recognizing when we heal and resolve stuff in a relationship. That's important as well, Mark.
A lot of times, one person in a relationship will squash their own feelings. They'll put up with the garlic breath or the Limburger cheese, or the fact that one or the other of the spouses leaves underwear laying around, whatever it might be, and they just take it in stride. Is that fair to the relationship that you have with yourself when you do that?
Well, that's a good question. And when you say, is that fair, I would just say when we are stuffing down our feelings, regardless if it's at home or if it's at work, when we're stuffing our feelings down, eventually those feelings are going to surface. And it may not be very appropriate in how they do. So yes, it's easy. Well, I'm going to say this. It's easier to stuff those emotions when it comes to people in your professional life because you only see them only so often.
Unless they're your boss.
Go ahead.
Unless they're your boss.
Yeah.
Right? Our guest is Sheila Unique. The name of her book is Relatefully, Gain Greater Relationships from the Inside Out. The book provides tools and practices for you to experience quick shifts for something that isn't a quick fix. What do you mean by that?
What that means to me is that our whole life we're going to be dealing with different relationships. We're going to be dealing with interactions with people that sometimes we enjoy, sometimes they annoy us. Like the thing about a spouse, Mark, there's days where you just love the heck out of your spouse. And then there's days where you wonder who showed up because they push all your buttons and eat that cheese and that garlic breath. Okay? But it's not about a quick fix as far as, Bewitched, you used to wiggle your nose and then all of a sudden the relationship was perfect. The quick shifts are about, the days that I'm annoyed, I just have to go inside and heal and resolve whatever that is for me in whatever way I can. And that eventually, all those quick shifts around days where I'm frustrated, days I'm annoyed, days I'm just downright angry about something, all of those shifts eventually lead to a greater fix. And that's what brings about healing.
Sheila, I really appreciate you joining us today and making yourself available. Again, the name of the book is Relatefully, Gain Greater Relationships from the Inside Out. It's available on Amazon, I'm assuming?
It is, Mark, and it has hit #1 already.
Hey, congratulations. I want you to hold on. I'm Mark Gallen, along with the insane Daryl Wayne. Thank you very much for listening. Daryl, thank you very much for helping and for sitting in last week. I completely forgot to say that. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was a show last week.
Yes, there was. And you sat in and did a very good job. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening at home. We appreciate that. Join us at latenighthealth.com. Lots going on over there. Appreciate you taking a look over there. Anyway, have a good week, everybody. Have a great week. Most importantly, wear your mask and have a healthy week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Words are a critical aspect of success. How you get your point across is a crucial part of what makes anything sell. So do it right and hire a writer. Whether it's articles, blog posts, technical writings, website content, product descriptions, or ghostwriting anything from a novel to a nonfiction book about your navel, contact Servet Hassan. If you want it to sell, write it right. Email Servet at servet@servethassan.com.